Welcome back to this channel. Now, before we proceed with anything, why don't you just hit the subscribe button over there and be part of the family, because you are definitely gonna get value at the end of this video. So let's make it a better trade. Fair, right? Now, thank you for subscribing. So in this video, I'll show you how to add this, I'll say, effect to your input fields, so that whenever you're creating forms or any project that require input fields, you can add them for a better user experience. Let's get straight to action. In the HTML document, create a div and give it a class name of container. And this will be the containing div for everything I'll do here. Inside this div container, you add a label and give it an inner text of enter username or any inner text you want. It depends on you. Next, just below the label, I'll add an input with a type of text and add the required Boolean attributes. Now, in my CSS, I'll show you why I add the required Boolean attributes. So stay to the end of this video to find out. Now, I want to ensure that whenever I click on this label here, it will lead me straight into the input field. So this is what you will do. You give the input field an ID attribute and a value of username or any name you want, depends on you. And then you come into your label with the 4 attributes. You make sure that the value of the 4 attributes is the same as the value of the ID attributes. So the value of the 4 attributes should also be username, just as you are seeing here, so that when I click on this label, it will lead me straight into the input field. And that's all the markup we need. Next is to style the HTML. So in the CSS file, you first select the body and give it a height of 100 viewport heights. Next, we center our content. So we set the display of the body to grid and set the place item property to center. And this will center our container both vertically and horizontally. Next, we start the container itself. So with the container class, we select it and set the display to flex and turn it into a flex box. We set the flex direction property to column, set justify content center, and align items to center. Next, we start the label. Give the label a color of purple or any color of your choosing, but I like purple, so. And set the font family to sans serif or any font family of your choosing. Increase the font size a bit. I'll set the font size to 2 EM. And then give it a margin bottom of 5 pixels. Also set the cursor to pointer, so that when we mouse over the label, there will be a human hand on it. Next, let's start the input. So my input, I'll give it a width of 80%. That is 80% of the width of their parent element. That is the container div. So 80% of the width of the container div. And give it a padding top of 10 pixels and a padding. So we give it a pattern of 10 pixels, 20 pixels. So the first 10 pixels will be for the vertical, that is the top and bottom. And the second 20 pixels will be for the left and right patterns. Set the font size to 2 EM. And then remove all outlines. Set the outline to none. And we add a border of 2 pixels solid and purple. Because I like purple, so any color of your choosing is fine. And I'll add a border radius of 10 pixels, and that will be it for the input. Now, this is the most important part of the video. Pay attention over here. There are 2 events we want to target. The first event is when we click on the input field or when we click on the label. And then the second event, we move to the HTML. You can see that inside my input element, there is a required Boolean attribute. So what this means is that there must be something in the input field. And so far as there is something in the input field, we can see that the input field is valid. So the valid will be the second event we want to target. So in my CSS, with my input field, we use the focus pseudo class and then use a comma to separate it. And the second event, also with my input field, with the valid pseudo class, and we set some properties. So when we click on the label or click on the input field, which will do the same thing. And also when there is something inside the input field, These are the two events that we've targeted. So you add your box shadow of 2 pixels to the right, 2 pixels to the bottom, and 5 pixels blurred, and a color of purple because I like purple. So you can use any color of your choosing. Now we want the same thing on the Oxy side too. So we copy our box shadow and paste it with a comma separating them. And this time we set the bottom to -2 pixels and the right to -2 pixels so that it will apply on the opposite side. That is the top and the left. We maintain the 5 pixel blur because there is no negative blur value. And we maintain the purple color because I like purples. You can choose any color you like. Just like you are seeing here, when you click on the input field, you see that there is this box shadow. And also when there is something inside this, and even if you click out, there is still the box shadow. Now the problem with this is the box shadow is on the outside of the input field. So in order to bring it to the inside, we add the inset values to both box shadows, just like you're seeing here. And this time, the box shadows will be inside the input field. Now go back to your input field selector, and then you add a transition of 0.4 seconds. So with this, that is what you are seeing over here. So this is basically the logic behind this. Whenever we click on the input field, and also whenever there is something in it making it valid, there will be a box shadow that will appear smoothly inside the input field. So you can add these effects to your input fields when you're creating forms or when you're creating any project that requires input fields to enhance the user experience. Thank you for watching this video today, and subscribe if you haven't, and see you in my next video. Thank you.